Ross Coulthart versus Bob Lazar. All right, now it's time for the heavy hitters. So get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, share on social media, and let me know what you guys think in the comments below. All right, earlier I shared a segment from this wonderful presentation that Ross gave at the Victoria State Library. And he talks a lot about this patch and how he got involved in researching the UFO crash retrieval program. A really great presentation. I may make another video on it later because there's a lot of juicy stuff in here. But the thing that stood out to me the most that I knew I had to make a dedicated video on was this Bob Lazar information. I love the Bob Lazar story. I love George Knapp. The documentary by Jeremy Corbell is some next level stuff. Man, that narration by Mickey Rourke was amazing. Really awesome documentary. I encourage you to go check it out. But is the story true? The David Grush information really seems to corroborate so much of Bob Lazar's story. It's hard not to imagine it being true, especially since detail after detail of Bob's story has been corroborated over the years. So what is Ross's new information? How is that going to change the game and how we view Bob Lazar? Well, let's listen.
Because the other thing that this guy asked me to say, these are not my conclusions, but I can tell you that this is information that came from somebody who had direct conversations with somebody with direct knowledge of what was then a crash retrieval program involving non-human technology at Area 51. And he said that his relative never went public because he wanted to live out a quiet and peaceful retirement. He said Bob Lazar did work at Area 51, but only for a very brief amount of time, and didn't know as much as he states publicly about how the craft functioned. Most of it is fabricated nonsense. Now, this is not my view, please don't attack me. They could never figure out how the craft worked, nor could they even open it. S4 is only a group of radio communication equipment on top of Papoose Mountain. There are no hangars built into the base of the mountain housing 9 sources, as Lazar claims. My source said he admires George Knapp, and he's mostly on the right track except for Bob Lazar. Sorry, George. There was no way he could have smuggled the close-up, crystal-clear photograph of the egg-shaped craft out of Area 51. Everyone's belongings and vehicles are constantly searched in and out of the facility. No one wants to lose their job or face other repercussions, so no one takes the risk. People work there for the long haul. It's a nice place to work, to retire with companies like EG&G and the people who run it currently, JT4.
Okay, well, maybe the guy that revealed that information is trying to protect his cushy job to come at EG&G or whatever the new company is. So could that be a motivator for him spreading disinformation about Bob? Yeah, no, it totally could. It totally could. But at least this is a step up from Chris Mellon's information, because if you remember, Chris Mellon had a source at Area 51 who said, "Oh, no Bob Lazar. Bob never worked here. Don't know what you're talking about. You're talking crazy pills there, Chris." So at least we're getting a little closer to the truth. Maybe the dam is opening a little bit, and now they're at least admitting that he worked there, and that there were ships there, but that they were never able to get them to work, that all of that was fabricated, etc. So let's break that down a little bit, right? So Bob was actually able to take people out to view these test flights of these UFOs. And he made multiple trips. There's video of it. He got arrested. There's a police record of him being arrested for taking people out to view these UFO test flights. So how in the world could that be fabricated or a hoax? Maybe they were flying something else other than UFOs, and that's what Bob was taking people to see. It does not appear like that if you've seen the footage. Those are not helicopters they're flying. Those are not planes they're flying. They're doing test flights of some particular craft that is not a normal craft. So, could Bob have used his knowledge if he worked there? on some other exotic prototype craft to create this fabricated story? Yeah, sure, I guess. I mean, it's possible, I suppose. However, the number of craft that Bob said that he saw there at S4 is almost identical to the number that David Grush says are in existence in these UFO crash retrieval and cover-up programs. He mentioned the number 12. Someone else has said that the number may be 30 or more. And Ross Coulthart himself has says there's a veritable parking lot of UFOs at Wright-Patterson. So, of course, that's not Area 51. That's not what Bob would have seen. And, you know, I have no idea, and nobody knows, except David Grush and his people who actually worked in those programs, exactly what programs they were and are, because I'm assuming those programs are still extant. Are those Area 51? Are those at Lockheed Martin? Where are those programs? Where are those 12 or 30 craft? Are there more at other sites? We just don't know. But so we have Bob taking people out to look at these craft. We have the number of craft closely resembling the number that David Grush gave. And we have, well, just go watch the Jeremy Corbell documentary or George Knapp's reporting for piece after piece of corroborative evidence that Bob Lazar is who he says he is and did what he says he did. Now, if he worked at S4, he probably wasn't working on this radio equipment, which is what Ross's source is telling him is at S4, the area of Area 51 where Bob is said to have worked. Bob didn't work on radio equipment. Bob is not a radio guy. Bob is a propulsion guy. He likes rockets. He strapped a rocket onto his car. He turned his car into a jet car. Really cool stuff. And that may be how he ended up getting his job at S4. He was a maverick, scientist and rocket guy. So he's a propulsion guy. He is not a radio guy. So he would not have been at S4 working on radio equipment. That story doesn't make any sense to me. However, what does make sense to me is that Ross's source is a real source, and he is giving Ross potentially doctored information because that is what he has been instructed to put out. Now, of course, Ross knows his source. Ross probably trusts his source. And until I have more information about that source, it's really hard to make a determination on that. So I'll withhold my judgment on that. But just looking at it from the outside in, that makes sense to me. This guy has openly talked about the cushy jobs that wait for people who work at Area 51 when they get done working at Area 51. So could he be protecting one of these cushy jobs by giving doctored information to Ross Coulthart? Absolutely, 100%. Is that what went down? Well, of course, we don't know. We don't know who the source is. I hope that Ross opens up, or maybe the source will come forward and give us more information. But I am a believer in the Bob Lazar story. I actually think it goes much deeper than even Bob is aware of. Because Bob says that later on in his life, as he was walking into a hotel room, he had a recovered memory from his time at S4, where he was interacting with a being. He did not see the being. It was behind a partition, and it was communicating with him telepathically. And apparently that memory was wiped from his mind. And beings typically do that. Almost every alien abduction, that is what they do. They wipe the abductee's mind of that encounter. So that's very typical of alien contact or non-human contact. And most alien abductees are repeat abductees. So could Bob have had repeat contact with beings at S4? I've made a series of videos about the evidence that the beings are working with the control group at Area 51 and other places. So that information from my own research appears to be credible and genuine. I'll, let you make your own determination on that, of course, and let me know what you think in the comments below if that's too far. But from my own research, that appears to be true. And from Bob's experiences, that also appears to be true. The beings seem to at least have been working with us through the 90s. So, at least the early 90s. Are they still working with us? Probably so. They have probably been working with us since at least the 40s or 50s. They were definitely working with us in the 60s, and we had our own UFOs that we were flying in the late 50s or 60s, according to my research, and I've shared some of that on the channel, so check those videos out. Why do we need to reverse engineer UFOs if we already have UFOs we're flying around? That's a great question. Bill Olhouse has actually talked a little bit about that. He worked at Area 51, and he talks openly about how there was a UFO crash retrieval and reverse engineering program, but also involvement with the beings, where the beings were gifting us technology that we were flying. So, those aren't two separate programs. Those are connected programs. I don't know why we need to reverse engineer stuff if we already have stuff. But yeah, if you guys have some insight into that, let me know. Anyway, the point is, for my own research, the beings are involved in the control group and at Area 51, and that Bob had at least one contact with these beings. If he had one contact, he probably had multiple contacts. He was made to undergo hypnosis by the military when he started working there, and to drink a weird pine-scented drink. I think this may have made him more susceptible for, mental influence and to have his mind wiped. He was working with the beings, and I think that this hypnosis that he was made to undergo and this drink he was made to go was in some way meant to facilitate that contact. That's what makes sense to me. Anyway, long story short, I believe Bob. I believe Bob's experiences there, as short as they were. I think he only worked there for like 6 months or something. I think that, I think that his experiences are stranger than he knows. And the involvement between the control group and the beings goes much deeper than they would like us to know. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you believe Ross's source was Bob just working some radio equipment at S4? What do you think the story is? Are you at least encouraged that sources are now admitting that Bob was there and that there are ships? I mean, that's a step up from Chris Mellon's source, right? I mean, I think so. But let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video or gotten something out of it, give me a big thumbs up. I sure would appreciate it. Smash the subscribe button and the bell to be notified of future videos. You don't want to miss a thing. Join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. I would love to see you guys there. And share this video if you get a chance on social media. That really helps. And if you want to support Cosmic Road in a bigger way, there's a PayPal button below. A one-time donation would be great. Or you can become a channel member. Channel members are rock stars. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Meanwhile, there's plenty of other videos to check out on the channel. And I will see you again next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road, signing out.